If you're a fan of Disney parks, I've got some news that you're going to love. We've got new leadership at Walt Disney Imagineering, and there's some real positive signals that Avatar at Disneyland is going to be something great. We could be on the verge of an amazing new era at Disney parks, and we're going to talk about that next on Fresh Baked. In fact, let's just get right into it. On Tuesday, Disney announced the hiring of Bruce Vaughn as the new Chief Creative Officer at Walt Disney Imagineering. Actually, it's a rehire, as he had a similar position going back to 2016. Per the memo from Josh D'Amaro, he'll co-lead Imagineering along with Barbara Buza, who is the current president of WDI. As modern Imagineering executives go, Vaughn's resume is among the best. Before leaving in 2016, a timeline we're going to get back to in just a second because it's very interesting and very telling. Vaughn led an array of very successful and beloved projects. He led the DCA 2.0 team that included Cars Land and Buena Vista Street, both of which were magnificent and tremendous improvements over DCA 1.0, which, by the way, he was not responsible for. He also led the team that built Pandora. Keep that in mind for a later segment in this video. And then you can also count projects like Mystic Manor and Grizzly Gulch in Hong Kong, and the cruise ships, Disney Dream and Disney Fantasy as well. When Vaughn was leading WDI, Imagineering seemed to be in really good hands. Everything was going very well. Even the concept of the cheap reskin, I don't even think even existed at that point. But then Vaughn left Walt Disney Imagineering in 2016. He became the CEO of Dreamscape Immersive and then eventually landed at Airbnb. At this point, I feel like I should mention that the Imagineering department really felt the loss of Vaughn in 2016. One Imagineer that I actually spoke with personally said that Disney was losing a lot of Imagineering talent, some of which were going to places like Airbnb. And I can only assume he was talking about Bruce Vaughn. And it's at about this time that Imagineering started to lose its way just a little bit. And this all took place just after Bob Chapek became Disney Parks chairman in 2015, the division to which Imagineering reports. So it doesn't take a giant leap of logic to see the connection between these two things. Chapek takes over in 2015. Vaughn leaves in 2016. Imagineering starts to take a dive. We get projects like the Pixar Pier reskin and a version of Galaxy's Edge that did not deliver what was originally promised back in 2015 when Vaughn was still Chief Creative Officer. I love Galaxy's Edge just like it is, but recall that there was a lot of things that they were promising us in terms of interactivity in the land, guests having like a profile. Actually, a lot of the things that were promised to us at Galaxy's Edge wound up being monetized at the Galactic Star Cruiser. The Galactic Star Cruiser, that's a conversation for another video, but the Galactic Star Cruiser was supposed to be, a lot of it, was what we were supposed to get at Galaxy's Edge. All of this happened after Vaughn left Disney. So we can fast forward to 2023, where the Chapek era ends, and Disney corrects that mistake with the rehire of Bob Iger. Iger promises to bring back creativity as the heart, as the center of the Disney business, of the Disney company. And he's going to do some mistake correcting of his own, mistakes made by previous management. A month later, we've got the rehire of Bruce Vaughn. Now, when I talk about or think about the mistakes that the Disney company have made in recent years, I often say if they had just gone back to doing what they were doing before, instead of trying to break a thing that wasn't broken, the Disney company was in great shape not too long ago. This feels a lot like that. The hiring of Bob Iger and now the rehiring of Bruce Vaughn feels a lot like trying to reset the clock a little bit. And changes like that often start from the top. Iger, and then Imagineering, Bruce Vaughn, and then they filter down, and then... Okay, I'm excited, but let me keep going. Bringing back Bruce Vaughn is a clear signal from the Disney company that they may actually be serious to do what is really necessary, and doing so in a way that Disney fans would appreciate and recognize and see. It's as good a sign as I could find that Disney may be ready to just start making good product again. Now, with that, I mentioned that Bruce Vaughn led the team that built Pandora. It's a beautiful place, and a lot of its beauty is due to the talents of Joe Rohde. But it was Vaughn who led that team and greenlit all that Rohde wound up doing. Another point that is worth noting is that whatever has been ailing the Disney company, Disney parks, it's not the fault of the Imagineers. The Imagineers are are terrific. They're bright, they're creative, they want to do great things that please people, but then they are told, no, you can't do that thing. We got to save some money. The budget this, budget that. But the creative minds do really want great things for the Disney parks. And Bruce Vaughn was the kind of leader that said yes. He said yes to Pandora. Just go to Pandora and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, is it a coincidence that we're having a conversation about a new Avatar experience at Disneyland and then they bring back Bruce Vaughn? Probably, yes, it could be. But at the very minimum, it's a good thing. So I do love the idea that someone like Bruce Vaughn is leading all of the Imagineering projects. And that includes whatever that experience happens to wind up being at Disneyland, at the Disneyland Resort. And I added that last part at the end because that's just what Disney did. So it must mean something, right? What I'm talking about is an article published on D23. The article, Avatar stars react to news of Pandora coming to the Disneyland Resort. And the first comment in this article is from Jack Champion, who played Spider in Way of Water. He said that he's, quote, so excited for Avatar fans to experience the world of Pandora just like we did here at Disneyland Resort. Jack said Disneyland. Disney added, parenthetically, Resort. Next we hear from Jolie Bliss, who played Took. She said, quote, oh my gosh, Avatar is coming to Disneyland Resort. Again, Disney adds the parenthetic tag Resort to her comment about Disneyland. One more quote from Bailey Bass, who played Saria in the movie. She said she's, quote, over the moon about the Avatar expansion to Disneyland Resort. Now, I'm one of those people who believes that words have meaning, especially when those words are edited, and very especially when those words are edited by Disney. 3 times Disney added the parenthetical Resort to a comment made about Disneyland. From this, I would be inclined to infer that whatever this as yet undefined Avatar experience is not going to be at Disneyland. At the Disneyland Resort, yes, but not at Disneyland specifically. If it were at Disneyland, I don't feel like they would have gone out of their way to clarify that it was at the Disneyland Resort and not just Disneyland. Now, I think they're okay with you hearing Disneyland because the word Disneyland, the term Disneyland, is far more marketable than Downtown Disney or California Adventure. It's the reason why a while back, they rebranded everything here to be called the Disneyland Resort. Everything is all part of the Disneyland Resort. That wasn't always the case. It's the reason why they add Disney California Adventure on the name of California Adventure, even though everybody calls it California Adventure or DCA, in my opinion. Now, this is by no means 100% fact. I mean, I can't say that this is for sure. These videos are about speculation and trying to read between the lines. Personally, I was already inclined to think it was going to California Adventure, and these comments only seem to reinforce that for me. Disneyland Resort. Oh, by the way, another word that Bailey Bass used was expansion. Does Bailey Bass know something that we should? That's a very specific word to describe what Disney is doing with Avatar. Specific in a way that it suggests that this is not a temporary exhibit. Temporary one, kind of like the one that we saw at Singapore, where my first thoughts went to. Expansion suggests something greater, something that's more along the lines of a land, perhaps. Whenever we hear the word expansion, we think, bigger than that. Expansion suggests something permanent and something of scale. It also suggests growth. And by that I mean we're going beyond what already exists. They are expanding the Disney park. And there's one more comment after that. There's something that the D23 team, the writers of this article, actually said. Per the D23 team, quote, while details on the coming Avatar experience remain under wraps, it promises to be as amazing as those found at Walt Disney World Resort. As amazing as what's found at Walt Disney World. As amazing as Pandora. That's a very high bar because Pandora is in fact amazing. So that word again suggests something that goes beyond a temporary exhibit or some smaller attraction. Now, having said all of that, which is a thing that I am fond of saying when we're doing speculation, having said all of that, This is not Disney speaking directly. These are cast members and D23, which is just a fan site. This could all just be hype, hyperbole. In fact, it probably is hype. That's exactly what these kind of articles are for, is to build hype. Meanwhile, the comments made by the Avatar cast come off as, well, not exactly organic or even, real. They kind of sound like something you might hear from an NPC in a role-playing game, scripted. And that is exactly the kind of thing that Disney would do if they were trying to promote something. It's all very choreographed, arranged, written, which is, going back to one of my original points, why words have meaning. Because Disney chose those words. They were fed to the people writing the article and fed to the cast members making those comments. Expansion, as amazing as Disneyland Resort. Those are encouraging observations from where I sit, and all being led by the watchful eye of new creative chief executive Bruce Vaughn. I am very optimistic for both the Avatar experience and for Disney parks in general. So, what could this new Avatar experience be? We've talked about that a little bit. For one, again, I think it's something that's going in California Adventure. And right now, my speculation is that I'm going to go with the Redwood Creek Little Mermaid rumor. An experience that would include an outdoor land, much like the kind of experience you might find at Pandora, with all the lush greenery and vegetation and all that. An outdoor land or area experience that would exist in the Redwood Creek space, and then an indoor attraction, possibly a dark ride, in the Ariel's Undersea Adventure show building. Now, I go into some further discussion on this topic in a recent video that we did about what the possibilities might be for Avatar and the Avatar experience. Stay tuned to the end of this video for I'm going to show you that whole section, that whole piece that we did about Redwood Creek. But I'm very optimistic. This is about as positive as I have felt about Disney parks in quite a few years. I mean, it's always been great. Look, Disney parks are great no matter what, but there have been good times and bad times. We're coming out of a low. I feel like we are on the verge. We are on the verge, I believe, on an amazing new era in Disney parks, and I cannot wait to start reporting on that for you. You can watch us report on that by subscribing to our channel right now, and then follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. And if you like our show and want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon. And if you like our show, and I had to go back to one. And if you like our show and want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked. Of all of the suggestions, fan theories, mild rumors, of all of those that I've heard regarding the future home of an Avatar experience, this one, the one regarding Redwood Creek and more, has got me the most interested, the most curious. I didn't even think of it. It didn't even cross my mind when we first started talking about this, but a fan of the show mentioned to me on Twitter, he's like, yeah, here's what I've heard. This is the closest thing to a mild rumor that we've got. It's totally unvetted anything. But he said Redwood Creek Challenge and Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, which is literally right next door. I mean, they are neighbors. They share space. You look at it from Google Maps, and you can easily see how these two spaces, Redwood Creek and Ariel's Undersea Adventure, work together. They could be symbiotic if they wanted to be. And I mentioned that right up the top because it's not just about using this space, but it's about creating something of a mini land, and they don't even have to really convert either space in terms of demo You could make an indoor experience at Ariel's Undersea Adventure. You could make an outdoor experience here at Redwood Creek Challenge. This area, this place, is the closest that you're going to get to Pandora without it actually being Pandora. The way that it's very natural, and that's what I think of first. When I think of Pandora, I think of nature. I don't think of it as sci-fi or anything like, because that's why I thought Adventureland at first, because it was the closest thing that I could think of in terms of where it would fit. But I'm thinking, outdoor type stuff only, just like they have at Pandora. They could do an indoor experience as well. But you could easily transform this place into something very similar to what we see at Pandora. As a matter of fact, you could even do it so that it incorporates some of the same kid-friendly experiences that you have here at Redwood. It doesn't have to be just like Pandora. You're not going to just create or recreate Pandora as they have it at Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World. You can make something that's entirely its own, a kid-themed, a kid-centric space, just like it is now. Except instead of being the Redwood Creek or the Redwood Forest, it's Pandora. Pandora Bridges? I mean, that's a thing, right? I'm pretty sure there's some space in Pandora that has something like a little kid's slide. Rock wall, yeah, why not? While we're at it, might as well include the zip lines. However, there is one small problem with this plan. Avatar definitely exists in nature. It is a nature-themed experience, a place. But one thing that Redwood Creek Challenge has that Pandora doesn't are buildings. There are all kinds of structures here made of wood, etc. Very natural, very, in the experience, but those don't exist in Pandora. They live in trees, literally, on leaves and in little nooks. And there's nothing that is, I don't know how you'd say, constructed by man. These all structures are built by man. That is not a thing that exists in Pandora. Meanwhile, just on the other side of that fence, in between here and what you can see as the Incredicoaster way off in the distance, in between that is the Little Mermaid show building. That building right there, that is Ariel's Undersea Adventure. That is the show building. Here's actually an even better look as we make our way out. That's Little Mermaid right there. I mean, I don't have to tell you what I'm thinking, right? I don't have to tell you that the idea here is to create a Pandora-like environment over there and a Navi River Journey type dark ride here in the Little Mermaid show building. They've been talking about replacing this attraction for years. Almost as quickly as they built it, they were like, no, let's put in Coco or something like that. The only question that I have is, does this, oh my, showtime. Does this space, is it big enough to fit an attraction equal to Navi River Journey? I don't know. I have to look into that. Perhaps I can fit something like that in here while I'm recording this, or I mean in post. It's a big building. It's a big dark ride, but is it Navi River Journey big? I don't know. Does it have to be? And that's the interesting part about what Iger teased during that earnings call, was that he called it an Avatar experience, not an Avatar land or a Pandora land or a Pandora-like land, or he didn't even use the word land, he used experience, which suggests something on a much smaller scale than what we're envisioning here. Having said that, this vision could get even bigger if you really think about it. Most all of Grizzly Peak is actually begging to become Pandora. I mean, if we're talking about the similarities between Ariel's Undersea Adventure and Navi River Journey, I mean, what about Flight of Passage and Soarin'? I mean, that's what Flight of Passage is, basically Soarin' on steroids. It's Soarin' extra. And you don't have to make this Flight of Passage. You could just make it Soarin' over Pandora. Just make the same ride system and then put scenes over Pandora instead of scenes over Paris or Disneyland or whatever. I mean, you could use the same exact ride system and make a Pandora-themed attraction for it. Heck, they've even got a water ride. Having said that, this is where things get a little thin, because there's no, well, we haven't seen anyway, there's no rapids that we're aware of so far on Pandora. There is an ocean. Now, so that would take a lot of either, mental gymnastics to try to figure out a way to include a rapids attraction into Pandora Land, or you have to hey, how are you? All right. Or you have to, somehow reshape this attraction to be more like an oceanic type water ride as opposed to a rapids. I don't think that that's way too big budget. There's way too much expense on that. I don't think that's anything that they're remotely interested in doing. So that's where things get a little thin on this idea. And that actually brings me to another reason why it's not likely, improbable, even though it sounds great, is that at Animal Kingdom, Disney goes through a lot of trouble and a lot of expense. They spend a lot of real estate, a lot of time transforming you, taking you into Pandora slowly and carefully. They have obscured the show building for Flight of Passage into the mountain, very much like they have for Galaxy's Edge and Rise of the Resistance. Getting into the show, getting into the attraction is as much part of the show as the actual attraction itself. That walk up, the mountain, as it were, getting into the mountain, that's a whole experience. And they don't have the space here at Grizzly Peak, I don't think. It doesn't feel like it. And I use that, I say that a lot when we start talking about projects and blue skying stuff. I say that a lot because there is a much smaller amount of space to work with here at Disneyland. Outside, out on Harbor Boulevard and beyond, where they talk about third gates, and inside as well, they have maximized every square inch of this place. So I don't know if you can reproduce what they did in Pandora at Walt Disney World, at Animal Kingdom. Not that I'm suggesting that they are. As I mentioned already, nobody said Avatar Land, nobody said Pandora Town. They said Avatar Experience. We're just getting blue sky on this. And so while I, might want to lift you up a little bit to say what's possible, I mean, Redwood Creek is like I said, it's about as close as you're going to get, but it's still short. It's still short. And I think that all of these ideas are short, both the ones that we've seen so far and the ones that we haven't seen yet. I still believe we're going to get, let down by whatever it is that we wind up getting. Not so much even because Disney let us down or Disney failed us. It's because our expectations are higher. Our expectations were higher than, or that we want more. We want the best. We want it all. So if we don't get it all, it's like, all right.